Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. My name is Spencer Walsh. We have a good one for you today. Hope everyone had a good week. We're here to recap it all up for you on this Friday night, and we have a great show for you. Really excited, actually, tonight about our stories. First, a new report by the New York Times about faith, freedom, fear. Really get a good understanding of why rural America is hesitant about vaccinations and get a sense of really how bad that is in the grand scheme of things, put it into its proper context. Also, a very interesting new op-ed in The Intercept by Eva Putsova, a Justice Democrat, kind of Bernie-crat challenger in Democratic primaries, and she has something to say about AOC's strategy, and it isn't always positive. We'll hear from her later on in the show. In the second half, we'll be talking about J.D. Vance. He's being blasted after he equates Joe Biden's free childcare to class war on Twitter. We'll take a look at his case. And as Biden moves to pull out from Afghanistan, a disturbing alliance of two of the most wrong-headed people we've seen in a while on foreign policy. So stay tuned to find out who that is. All right, let's get into that and a lot more. We start with this vaccine situation. Very interesting here in the New York Times. Jen Hoffman with this piece. Starts off to ask, so have you gotten the vaccine yet? The question, a friendly greeting to Betty Smith, the pastor's wife, lingered in the air as four church women sat down for their regular Tuesday coffee and conversation at Ingles Market. So apparently, people, at least in my, neck of the woods, are like, oh, how'd you get the vaccine? Is it good? Like, no one's ever talking about, did you get the vaccine? Like, what do you think about the vaccine? No, that is not what it is at all. It's very much of like a when, not if, in, my area of the woods, which is like, it's fine. Different cultures are different in the country. Like, we live in a very big place here in America. But, of course, not to say that everyone shouldn't get the vaccine. Like, of course you should get the vaccine. Do it. I mean, I have had, like, a lot of talk has been, obviously, when the second vaccine, everyone knows it's kind of like that's where you have the worst reaction. So, and I'm actually getting it on Monday. But a lot of people do wonder. About, how bad is the reaction going to be. But no one says, oh, I'm not going to take it because I'm afraid of the reaction. Because people, and again, most of the time they end up feeling absolutely fine. So, yeah, Smith hesitated, Betty Smith, this is again in Tennessee, sensing a chilly blast of judgment from her never mask, never vax companion. She fumbled through a non-reply. Recalling the moment, she said, we were there to get to know each other better, but the first thing on the table was the COVID vaccine. Kind of unfortunate. So, yeah. It's been definitely a little bit of an awkward situation. The pastor's wife there, she's in favor of the vaccine. The subject makes her husband, the Reverend David Smith, even more uncomfortable. Honestly, I wish people wouldn't ask, he said, chatting after Wednesday night prayer at Tusculum Baptist Church. I think it's none of their business, and it's just dividing people. Yeah, he may be right about that. I mean, hopefully everyone gets the vaccine. Like, people, the people should be getting the vaccine, but it's better not to have these like communities tearing each other apart over this public health measure, because it's going to force more people to take sides and probably going to force more people to take sides against the vaccine. As the beautiful Appalachian spring unfurls across northeastern Tennessee, the COVID-19 vaccine is tearing apart friends, families, congregations, and colleagues. It's a muddy mess, says Meredith Strader, a physician assistant who runs an events venue with her husband, another pastor who knows the choice has become much more than about healthcare. Which voice do you listen to? Communities like Greenville and its surroundings, rural, overwhelmingly Republican, deeply Christian, 95% white, are on the radar of President Biden and American health officials as efforts to vaccinate most of the U.S. population enters a critical phase. These are the places where polls show resistance to the vaccine is most entrenched, while campaigns that aimed at convincing Black and Latino urban communities to set aside their vaccine mistrust amid striking gains. Towns like these will also be convinced if their country is to achieve widespread immunity. And I think Joe Biden leading that campaign is going to be a pretty big mistake, because a lot of these people probably think that Joe Biden eats children or something like that. Who knows? So it is going to be a pretty tough thing to get through here. But I think it should not be led by Joe Biden. It should be led by actually someone who understands rural white Republican America and who that these people trust. I think Joe Biden knows that. He's many things, but he's not, overly self-important, at least in some respects. But a week here in Greene County reveals a more nuanced, layered hesitancy than the surveys suggest. People say that politics isn't the leading driver of their vaccine attitudes. The most common reason for their apprehension is fear that the vaccine was developed in haste, that the long-term side effects are unknown. Their decisions are also entangled in a web of views about bodily autonomy, science, and authority, plus a powerful, regional, somewhat romanticized self-image. We don't like outsiders messing in our business. So it feels like, there's just a broader kind of culture here in this part of the country where it's probably the same in a lot of other parts of the country. And also in still further parts of the country, it's diametrically opposed, that they just are not seeing this. Like, they're not seeing the point of the vaccine. They don't want to get it, and they just, we'll be fine. We're here kind of isolated, and it won't be the end of the world. According to state health department statistics, 31% of vaccine-eligible population in Greene County had gotten the vaccine, at least one dose of it, which is still below Tennessee overall, which is one of the lowest rates in the country, and far below the CDC's national tally of 55%. While many older residents have been inoculated, now that the eligibility is open to most adults, vaccination sites are almost desolate. Still, conversations here show that for many people, resistance is not firm. Roiled by internet fallacies, many hunger for straightforward information from people they trust. And that's the question, what the government really needs to do is figure out who these people trust. Who do they want to hear it from? Who should be the person coming out there and saying it? Is it Trump? I'm sure that wouldn't hurt, but, there's other people for sure. Others have practical needs like paid time off to recover from side effects. Very fair. That should be definitely given, which the Biden administration has urged employers to offer, or the opportunity to get their shot from their own doctor. So I would think that should be two definite concrete steps that Biden should do, and he could do if he wanted to actually use some of that executive power he's so afraid of. But what's lacking is a groundswell that may encourage the hesitant to make the leap. Many people who have gotten vaccinated are remaining tight-lipped. So, yeah, Greene County is carpeted with hundreds of evangelical churches that range from steepled 19th century edifices to back roads barns. People scrape by on subsistence farming, small jobs in small factories, welfare checks, and cash flows from retirees who are moving on to the cheap Vista blissful land. Drug busts for heroin and methamphetamine sustain a humming cottage industry of lawyers and bail bond services. COVID smacked the region hard this winter. 11 people in Jim and Rita Fletcher's extended circle died from it. But no, the Fletchers, lifelong Greenvillians, will not get the vaccine. What's the point? They asked. The government still wants you to wear a mask indoors. I don't see any benefits, Ms. Fletcher said as a couple waited to see their family doctor. And to be honest, it's not, the scientific and a lot of this is, Fox News kind of stuff and over dramatizing it, and people understandably, not combing the CDC website for every little thing. But there is a certain, mask hyper vigilance, shall we say, in more liberal communities that, especially in, the Northeast, that does not make any sense. And really, in a weird way, Northeast is kind of a lot of where the media lives, and they kind of emanate that. It's like a lot of people are saying, we need to wear the mask, and it's really trickles down through the media because all you hear on Fox News is like, oh, the government, they want you to wear a mask. Why would you get a vaccine? And then people do take that seriously because there is, when you see Joe Biden wearing a mask, you see people, Ryan Grimm actually made this point on his podcast, Deconstructed. He said, why not pack the chamber with all these vaccinated representatives to show that getting vaccinated can make a change in your life, to prove to people it makes a difference? Because there has been a lot of that. People are like, oh, even though we're vaccinated, we still got to wear a mask indoors. It's just not the same. Come on, stay vigilant. You got to wear the mask. And people are like, wait, what's the point? I thought the vaccine was supposed to be the cure. They're supposed to be the light at the end of the tunnel to finally go back to normal. And people are really clearly starting to notice this. Neither the science nor statistics of the vaccine daunt them. Now retired in their 70s, Fletcher was a telecom engineer, and Mrs. Fletcher, the wife, was a secretary and accounting clerk. But the Fletchers, Free Will Baptists, where the vaccine includes aborted fetal parts, it does not. They don't trust it's more one of the conspiracy theories. They don't trust the government, and they have long been convinced that the COVID case numbers have been manipulated. Saying, quote, I think we have just been hornswoggled. That's quite a way of putting it. People don't put much stock in pronouncements by politicians, but they do trust Walt Cross, the proprietor of Mustard Seed, a shop in Newport just over the county line that takes its name from the Gospel of Matthew and carries herbs, nutritional supplements, and local produce. Cross is also a volunteer fire chief for Cook County? Cock County? I don't know. He's kind of a tall, lanky Tennessean with a blue-eyed focus and a warm mountain drawl, whether he's describing his preferred method to rouse people who have overdosed ammonia rather than Narcan, or answering questions from COVID patients about how to treat their symptoms, which include hydrate, eat, take herbal extracts, apply a hot and cold compress. So there's one way of doing it. Before going to the doctor, many people phone Cross, or after the doctor's medicines don't seem to be working. Although his father died of COVID, Cross won't get the vaccine. We jumped in the bed with the vaccine too fast, he said. Well, he won't tell people to get it or not. He says pointedly, do your due diligence. So that's kind of an idea, a little bit of a do your due diligence. I think that's kind of a way where a lot of people are at. And I think the question is here, and this is going to kind of play out over time, where are they getting their information from? Are they getting it from, these kind of conservative sides that say, oh, it's a satanic vial of death, or is it something else? We do not know. And it's going to be very interesting to figure out what happens from there. So, all right. Let's move on to our next story. And this is by Eva Putsova. Eva Putsova. She is a, we'll find out who she is in a second. She's writing this as an op-ed for The Intercept. During the last election cycle, I challenged my member of Congress, Eva Putsova, Republican turned blue dog Tom O'Halloran in a Democratic primary. Primary challenges are notoriously difficult, and getting a campaign off the ground is often impossible. And while I fell short, winning more than 40% of the vote in the district signaled to me that the people in Arizona's first congressional district are ready for more progressive representation. So this is a Arizona first. Let's take a look at this district here. This is a district, again, represented by Tom O'Halloran. He's a former Republican, now a blue dog. And yeah, let's take a look at this. This is an R+2 district, and she, running as an unabashed progressive, got 40% of the vote in the Democratic primary. Pretty impressive. As I'm considering my second attempt for the congressional seat, encouraged by the support we garnered, hardened by previous experiences, and enlightened by a better understanding of how much the establishment machine works, I'm concerned the new approach is adding yet another obstacle. At the end of March, approaching the first quarter fundraising deadline, Representative AOC used her Courage to Change PAC to make political contributions to dozens of Democrats who had won in close races in 2020. So yeah, this is, again, her Courage to Change PAC that's not being funded by corporations, but being funded by a bunch of people who admire her deeply and want to see things like Medicare for All and all that stuff happen. Like that's what they want to see. They want to see progressive policy changes quickly. And we take these contributions, exchanges among members of Congress as normal. To change policies, we have to change the rules of politics. Our electoral politics are so corrupted by corporate money that we don't even pause at the money laundering practice among members of Congress. So she just kind of passes it off to a lot of people who, I would argue, do not reflect the values of the people who donated to AOC in the first place. And why is she doing that? She's doing it to curry favor within the Democratic Party. And is that what a lot of people who donated to her want her to do? No. Like, that's not what I want her to do. She should not be supporting people who actively hate her. Like, if she's donating to people like Tom O'Halloran in this district, Blue Dog Democrats who won these close races, then that is completely working in the wrong directions. So, yeah, as Putsova writes here, the contributions also signal a retreat from the theory of change upon which Ocasio-Cortez originally ran. The idea then was that progressive and populist ideas had mass appeal and could win, and not just deep blue district, but in red seats and swing districts too. That was in the animating idea behind the brand new Congress and its offshoot Justice Democrats. Do we no longer believe that? And that's kind of interesting strategy here. So kind of in 2018, the Justice Democrats really went kind of balls to the wall, all out style here. And they did not have a very good time of it. They were hit hard. They didn't really get any wins, but they managed to pull out, of course, those three that you very well know. And they had like something like 50 members in all these red seats. And the next year, they had a little bit more success, just kind of focusing on these blue districts that had a far too Republican representative for their blueness. If you get my drift, there were the blue districts represented by a Republican member of the Democratic Party. Is pretty much what it was. But that all being said, there is something to be said. Like, if that was, of course, the original point. Like, we can win anywhere. Policies are what matters, and they cut through because people want to hear them. People just want to hear them, and that is kind of the original theory. But it has been largely abandoned by members of the kind of left luminaries. So yeah, the most fundamental problem I see is when you solicit contributions from your congressional campaign or a leadership PAC like Courage to Change, is that supporters have every reason to believe it's to get you reelected or to fail your PAC's mission. The Courage to Change PAC is quite specific about its use of funds. Contributions will be used to make early investments in progressive challenges that can even the playing field against established incumbents and bolster progressive leaders in Congress who take difficult but righteous stands. All endorsees will embody the ideas of racial, social, and economic and environmental justice. Courage to Change will refuse all corporate PAC donations, as will our candidates. So, yeah, there's no question that Ocasio-Cortez leadership PAC's recent contributions go against the PAC's stated purpose. To be fair, you'd be hard-pressed to find any member of Congress who has not given or received contributions from their colleagues' candidate committees, but just because the practice is so widespread and legal doesn't make it right. I've yet to see any members of Congress stating in their fundraising letters, social media ads, or any solicitation that the money will be used for a contribution to another candidate's campaign. In 2020, my anti-war heroine, Representative Barbara Lee, contributed her congressional campaign money to my opponent, just as Ocasio-Cortez did in 2021. Ouch. Ironically, before these contributions were made, I listed both representatives as my role models in Ballotopedia's 2019 Candidate Connection Survey. I share many, if not most, of their policy positions, but disagree with your approach to transforming the political system by supporting those who actively work against our political agenda. She's got a very good point there. Like, these are people who are not on our side here when it comes to this stuff. Like, Tom O'Halloran and all these people, they're not playing for the same team. If you want to give contributions to your colleagues to support them, you can use your personal funds. It's very fair, very fair. Like, that is, like, she's absolutely right here. And the fact that you have people like AOC and Barbara Lee, like, using money donated to them by everyday working people to support people like Tom O'Halloran, like Blue Dog Democrats. That's not what the mission statement said. That's not a smart way of advancing politics, and it is just really, I think, frankly, unethical. Pusova brings up a great point here. So, yeah, she said there's something extra troubling about bundling small dollar contributions from progressives into $5,000 checks to members of Congress, raising much of their campaign funding from corporate PACs. Like, this is embarrassing. This is not good. As a campaign, we have never accepted and would never accept a contribution from any political action committee or candidate committee, no matter their ideology, because the source of money is no longer transparent. If we want to fight money in politics, we should live by the standards we claim to support. And again, I think on principle, making Courage to Change with the mission statement it said is not a bad idea. But if you're using it to support people like Tom O'Halloran, that represents a completely fundamental misunderstanding of the political terrain and is another serious blow, to my opinion, of AOC. All right, we'll take a break. Be back in a minute. Hello, everybody. You know you want to keep it locked to the Spencer Walsh Radio Network. We have a lot of fun stuff coming your way on the programs. News flashes, of course, new every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Our flagship show continuing to bring you the news you need in this new political era. Uncultured is now live mixes, getting back into it. And, of course, that'll be every Saturday. And Hidden History is out every Thursday, wherever you get your podcast. This is the Spencer Walsh Radio Network's new spring lineup. You can listen wherever you get your podcast. And please be sure to rate us, review us, send us some comments. Spreaker.com/TSWS is the way to do it, or wherever you listen. However you listen, thank you so much for listening. This is Spencer Walsh Radio Network.
Oh, get it.
Everybody, welcome back to today's show. We got some great stuff coming your way here today, and this is a pretty good one. Today we're talking about J.D. Vance. A lot of people talk about him as the kind of the hillbilly elegy guy. That he was kind of the guy who, when a lot of the people who did not see Trump coming in the establishment wanted to understand kind of how he got there, they used him as their kind of Trump whisperer. The guy, because he was from Appalachia. Pretty much, if I had to sum up J.D. Vance in kind of like one singular sentence, it would be the kind of guy who spent all his might getting as far away from his kind of like Appalachian community as he could. He's like, you know what, Mom, Meemaw, Pop, Pep, I'm getting out of here, I think this is from Ohio or something like that. I'm going to become a corporate lawyer. I'm going to go to Yale Law School. Like, goodbye, good riddance. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to make something of myself, which is kind of a lot how that book and especially that movie comes off. And then he kind of gets in an awkward position where Trump's elected. All of a sudden, being from Appalachia has a lot of cultural cred. And he actually didn't become a corporate lawyer, by the way. He, I think, became like a vulture capitalist, which is not much better. It's, I would argue, worse than becoming a corporate lawyer, although corporate lawyers don't do a lot of good if you look at what's going on with Steven Donziger. But anyway, yeah, so J.D. Vance, he's considering running for Ohio Senate seat in 2022 as a Republican. And, he is not being, he's drawing some condemnation for a recent tweet. So, yeah, his Appalachian cred is not really working out here. He's trying to be the Republican working class guy. It's kind of a joke. It's very, very, very see-through. It's going to be interesting to see how he fares in this Ohio Senate race, where he's going to go against another working class cosplayer from the left in Tim Ryan. The $1.8 trillion American Families Plan. American Families Plan would provide direct support to parents and children, including child care, and the venture capitalist and Republican candidate does not like it. Universal child care is a massive subsidy to the lifestyle preferences of the affluent over the preferences of the middle and working class. It turns out that normal Americans care more about their families than their jobs and want a family policy that doesn't shunt their kids into crap daycare so they can enjoy more freedom in the paid labor force. Universal daycare is a class war against normal people. So obviously very, very, this is like a completely unpopular idea with working people, with any type of people anyway. Like very, very small amount of people actually don't support, universal daycare. This is from Politico. This is 2019 poll about it. Let's see if we can find some. This is the question. As you may know, legislation for universal child care was recently proposed in the Senate. Strongly support, 31%, somewhat support. So that's 63% of people who support it, and about 21% of people who oppose it, either somewhat or strongly there. Not the majoritarian position if you want to win the Ohio Senate seat. But first of all, think of the people you're talking about here. If you're trying to be, if you're trying to really be a hillbilly elegy to style candidate, you're going to want to appeal to people who actually have to go in situations like this. It's a huge, huge reason. It's one of the biggest things that, although it is kind of, just due to the subject of our gender, norms in our society, it is a lot more quote unquote like normally a women's issue kind of considered. Elizabeth Warren made a big thing of it in her campaign as she tried to appeal to the working class moms early on, and it really is interesting to see the kind of strong anti-reaction at this. So yeah, Will Menaker of Trap House tweets, the thing about J.D. Vance is he got famous for a book about hating his mother, and the politics he espouses and is handsomely funded for is about hating everyone's mother. So that's pretty much what this is about. Like, yeah, no, mom, you gotta watch your kids. You don't want childcare, stupid working class mother. No, you don't want to advance in your workplace. You don't want to get a job so you can be independent. No, like you're crazy. This guy Jeff Seitz for Congress, millionaire venture capitalist with an Ivy League degree, tells single parents and households where parents or both parents work to make ends meet, and we're the abnormal ones. So, and this is another one from Dolphin Pilot reacting to this. Responding to the tweet, all evidence points to the exact opposite. Not even joking. This is maybe the wrongest thing anyone has ever posted. It's pretty strong. Like, if I had written a tweet saying the sky is green, it would have been more correct than this take. Jane Coaston, I believe, of Vox, writes, it is always something to know that when a political figure or pundit says normal people, they have never and will never mean me, referring to a black person. Of course, tons of, working class moms, white, black, Latino, African American, black, same thing, obviously. But it is, those are the people who really benefit from childcare. Like, it is such working class mothers, people especially who are trying to, just have any job. Like, even if you whether you're a paralegal trying to work your way up, or you're working, at a fast food joint, you're still working long hours. You could be even a delivery driver. Like, you would need childcare for that. It is nonstop, especially like the people who need it the most. Single moms as well have just tons of financial stress. And it is really ridiculous to assert that, again, with the really kind of racially coded definition of normal people there that Jane Coaston is picking up, quote unquote normal. David Roth of Decoder, I think, whatever his website's called. There's something gratifying about, he writes, there's something gratifying about watching puds like J.D. Vance eat shit when they're trying to do conservative politics. They get that gig as just mashing buttons on the grievance soundboard, but there's always someone authentically dumber who will do it more convincingly. And that's right. It's a very good point. He is not dumb enough to be a GOP nominee in any stretch. Like, he's well-educated, smart guy. Sorry, man, not going to work. Anyway, let's move on to this last story. Guys, there's a scoop. Get this. Not just Hillary Clinton, but also Condoleezza Rice told members of the House Foreign Affairs Committee they're worried about President Biden's plan to withdraw all U.S. troops from Afghanistan, with Rice suggesting the U.S. may need to go back, Axios has learned. So yeah, this position puts two former Secretaries of State from both the Obama and Bush administrations at odds with Biden's most significant foreign policy move to date. And two of the people, most hated by the American people, most responsible for some of our worst decisions, such as, the Iraq War, the invasion in Libya, the entire war on terror. Like, Condoleezza Rice, huge architect of this. Like, it's hard to pinpoint who has a worse view on foreign policy than these two ladies. Like, they literally have the same view, so it's hard. It's tough competition to figure out who's worse. But yeah, the new president has, of course, vowed to complete the withdrawal by September 11th. Clinton and Rice offered their reactions during a members-only Zoom call Wednesday to attendees, told Axios. So Rice's office did not want to comment on a private briefing. The Clinton spokesperson did not respond to a request for comment. So we had Secretaries Clinton and Condi Rice Zoom today with the committee. One committee member told Axios a little disagreement on Afghanistan, but they both agreed we're going to need to sustain a counterterrorism mission somehow on that side of the country. Yes, of course, we need to sustain the mission, folks. We cannot turn down the mission. Like, I don't know. It's going to be very close and very critical to watch what Biden does here and really understand, understand the reality of what's going on and what, surreptitious, we're just going to leave a few troops behind, almost like, why is that, Jesus Christ, why is that name escaping? Home Alone. Like Home Alone, we're just going to leave some troops in Afghanistan by accident, and they'll do some great contracting work there. And Raytheon and all those defense contractors are continue to be well compensated and looked after. Of course, obviously, we got to have some. Because really, what it's all about is these people in government trying to, by any means necessary, claw on to the idea, to the principle that America must be having its tentacles in every part of the world at every point in time. And that is an idea that we must fight to the end. All right, that's all we got for you today. We will see you next time. It's been Newsflash.